Hey guys, how are you? Happy Thursday night. To all my Christian friends, I want to say Merry Christmas. And I hope you're watching. I had a lot of people message me over the last hour and say, we scheduled this at the very most perfect time because they're done with the family. And I mean, done with the family, right? You know what it's like. And they're looking for something to do. So we're going to have a convo, kind of getting into MAGA, getting into TPUSA and some other things of the day. And I have with me Daniel and Cam. Cam, I think you're muted and you can't be muted because we have a lot to talk about. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Sloan, how are you?
I'm doing great. I just got back from New York City. I went on a 4-day trip.
I'm sorry to hear that, by the way.
Well, but I had to do it before it turned to shit. I had
Nah, it already happened. That's why I left. So
Yeah, well, I mean, right, it's going to turn more into that.
you're talking about the Mamdani takeover, but I think COVID kind of did the number on the city, to be honest.
Oh, I know. I think it did too. And then, there's a lot of crime, but I took the opportunity to ask a lot of New Yorkers there, what did they think it was going to be like? Everyone from cab drivers, et cetera, and they didn't really have an opinion. So I don't know if they know what's getting ready to hit them yet, guys.
No, in fact, they actually voted for him, right? So on some level, whatever's coming and what's going to happen, the people in New York deserve it because they did democratically elect Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, I mean, you get what you vote for. So I guess that's what happened. But anyway, so a lot has happened over. I tried to take it easy and light over the last few days, but a lot has happened since the TPUSA event that started last week. So we're gonna go over that and talk about the broader issue of MAGA. I mean, look, I'm of two minds, and I think a lot of Jews are of two minds on this. We want to stop talking about ridiculous people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Dave Smith. But we can't because the self-anointed MAGA group now is TPUSA, and they continue to platform this guy. So we're not able to get away.
You want this, Cam?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Ben is right. I mean, he's consistent. He takes heat from all the sides, right? That's leadership. And Tucker, he's rich and bored. I mean, he can afford to platform the anti-Semites, and we can't. I mean, and that's not censorship. That's just a bad political hygiene. So that's just the difference that's really kind of bringing us here today, right? Is just good political hygiene and bad political hygiene. I mean, Ben is running media. He's building institutions, and Tucker is not. And it's just like when you that's where the free speech argument collapses, when you're just laundering extremism. And I know that we were just talking a little bit before about the Heritage Foundation is kind of a case study. Kevin Roberts kind of thought he could ride the Fuentes rave. Now you've had 12 plus senior staffers resign. So looking forward to getting into that a bit tonight.
Yeah.
I would say when it comes to the platforming, I know Ben actually, I think Ben actually used the word platforming, but he was talking, I think, more specifically about the idea that you have Nick Fuentes on to fluff his ideas and to not actually engage in it. Now, Charlie Kirk worked very hard for many years to not have Groypers and Nick Fuentes in the middle of TPUSA. So it's very funny that Vice President Vance said that he did not show up with a list of conservatives to denounce, or Tucker Carlson said that it's against Charlie Kirk's principles to limit speech. Again, it's not limiting speech. You're just saying where the Overton window falls. Yeah. I think it's a huge issue that they're not actually able to speak with moral clarity on these issues. And that's how you end up with someone like Megyn Kelly, who the last time we spoke, Sloan, you were way more openly critical of her than I was even. And you were right, because it turns out that not only was she promoting these ideas, but she even said on the stage at TPUSA that she supported Candace asking some of these things.
Yeah, we're going to play that. Yeah, I was right about a lot of things on that. On the last time we spoke, it was 2 days before JD Vance came out and called me a scumbag. So he did actually platform. And then 3 days before, Megyn Kelly jumped on the bandwagon. And so, and I really mean this. I did take the gloves off on that podcast because I knew it was kind of coming. I've been following this stuff. And I'm like, did that guy, because as soon as you and I wrapped up that podcast and it played a couple times, a couple nights, Matt Walsh, Daryl Cooper, and that Aaron McIntyre, all three jumped on my ass on Saturday night. Okay. The next Sunday morning, JD Vance did. And that was after our podcast. So people are.
By the way, is everyone going to come back and apologize to you for attacking you? People were trying to make it as if you did something wrong. Again, would I have framed your tweet exactly like you did? No, I've actually said that. I told you that, but it's your right to do so. You actually were just putting it out on X. You didn't say anything that you're not allowed to say. And the response was so insane. And then fast forward 7 weeks or so, and most of what you're saying about JD Vance, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson was completely true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's some virtue in a proportional response. And, that there is something to be said when the vice president of the United States is responding to an independent journalist. There is definitely some disproportionality there. And I think you rode the wave there, Sloan, to your credit. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was telling you to do. That was not a pleasant, and to everybody listening, that was not a pleasant day for Sloan. That was not a good day. But we wrote it out, and I think we're in hindsight, God runs the world, and that was a good day. But I think Megyn Kelly attacking Shapiro and Bari Weiss,
unfriending them. It's kind of like a shriveled version of Regina George, right?
That's what I said, exactly. So
I know it's like she's a sellout. She couldn't afford these opinions when she was building her career. Now she's rich.
That's right. Okay.
She's established. She doesn't have anything to lose. Kind of like Tucker, and her audience is dying. So she's chasing relevance by dunking on Ben, right?
So let's put this up. Well, I'm going to play what she said. And I'm going to say this. So if you're non-Jewish, okay, I'm just going to give you a little inside scoop on how we are. Jews will have a multitude of opinions. I mean, it's like any minority group. And I always say this. No one has more unpleasant opinions about Jews than Jews. No one has unpleasant opinions about gays than gays, or black women. But, it's kind of that horizontal oppression. So I say that to mean, I'll put this up for our conversation. So Megyn Kelly gave an interview to Vanity Fair, okay? And she said, Ben Shapiro is Israel first. And then she said, and she singled out Bari Weiss and Ben Shapiro. By the way, Bari Weiss didn't do anything except for put up a post that basically said, yay, Ben Shapiro, great speech. So,
and she published a copy of Ben's speech. That was what it was.
Oh, well, that's
on the free press. It was published, which didn't actually name Megyn by name.
So, I got a little pushback. I'm just going to say this from a couple of Jews who are our people. They're on our side, right? Who said, this is not anti-Semitism. Don't call Megyn an anti-Semite. This is not anti-Semitism. I want to explain to people who may not catch up, keep up with this, why it is. First of all, claiming the dual loyalty canard, Israel first with Ben Shapiro. I don't listen to every Ben Shapiro show, but I listen to a lot of them. I have to tell you, Israel is probably 10 or 15 items down the list of things he talks about. He's no different than any other commentator. When Israel's on the front page, he'll talk about it, right? So that's bullshit, first of all. Secondly, anytime you're blaming Jews for causing anti-Semitism and causing a rift in the Republican Party, that's anti-Semitism. It's like saying, gee, there's two black people I don't like, and so I'm going to say that they're uniquely causing the racism. That's bigotry. That's anti-Semitism. And I normally don't, make a big deal and weigh in on this stuff because it's everywhere. And a lot of this is rage baiting. But now we're getting into the point where, and this isn't helpful, and I think you'll agree. Hold on, let me take this off. Anytime the ADL gets involved, with something, it doesn't do anything but bring negative attention to an issue because they are so far left and they've done jack for the Jewish community. But yeah,
I think that because the issue is so important, it's really extremely relevant to encourage the ADL to dissolve, for them to be defunded, for them to go away, for Jonathan Greenblatt to go back to Democrat politics, or maybe go work at the Jewish Federation or something. But just close the
same.
Right. So just close the ADL, because the problem is that this issue is extremely serious and the ADL has absolutely no credibility to stand on. When we're talking about what Megyn Kelly did there, it's not even addressing the issue. The problem with what Megyn Kelly does is she always talks with broad strokes and fights straw men. She never gets specific when it comes to the Israel issue. So I know Ben very well. I actually worked for Ben for 2 years. Ben has a lot of disagreements with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I like, that's not like to say every single Jewish person thinks the exact same way, or people that live in Israel think the same way as people who live outside of Israel, or people who vacation in Israel think the same thing as people who don't. Like, there's absolutely no indication that when he says, when she says Israel first, that means anything in terms of policy other than he's Jewish, so he must be thinking about other Jews that live in Israel.
Dual loyalty. We're not really Americans. We're actually Israel first. We're not true Americans.
Correct. There's a subversive aspect to it. And what Megan's go ahead.
That's why I have mad respect for him. And first of all, Merry Christmas to all my Christian friends and colleagues that celebrate. And I'm the guy here, who has to pass legislation and win districts. And I'm telling you, the fringe is a liability. It's not an asset. It costs us like 30 points of approval and millions of dollars of donor money. I mean, some of the numbers that I've seen that you haven't seen yet, but that you will just like boggle the mind. I mean, I'm not here to moralize at all. But I count the votes, I build coalitions, and the Groypers are not showing up. They're not showing up on election day. They're not opening up their checkbooks. And, Megyn, I mean, let's just, again, not moralizing, but she has spent 20 years playing it safe. And now, all of a sudden, she is the anti-establishment voice. Fraudulent. The suburban moms who made her career, they're with Ben on this. True, Daniel?
Yeah, I think 100%.
And her play is to seem like edgy to
saying the F word, the MF word, saying that Epstein, he wasn't a real pedophile. I mean, we're talking about 14-year-olds, you guys. That's barely legal.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
By the way, the National Coalition for Exploited Children came after her for that and should have. So you're edgy.
Guess what? That is a child. If you are exploiting somebody that is 15, 14, 15, you are preying on a child. And you can be edgy as you want, but that base doesn't actually exist.
Correct.
So Ben doesn't need Megyn. She, on the other hand, needs relevance, and ADL absolutely sucks because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, the ADL is a partisan disaster that attacks conservatives. Okay, like, we all know that, but using the ADL's failures as an excuse
yeah.
But I will say on the Megyn issue, what makes me particularly sad is that she does have the audience and she has the ability to actually have these discussions. I would love nothing more than to get in the octagon with someone like Megyn Kelly and have a discussion about it, because you can actually drill down in the issues. But she only goes on stage now. She only goes and has discussions in which she's controlling the conversation, and she says one thing that's particularly vague, like Charlie Kirk, my friend, God bless him. You're allowed to disagree with someone and how they frame an issue before and after death. I'm not attacking him. I'm not attacking Megyn, but I didn't like how it was framed, that very now famous or infamous clip from August, in which I said the Jewish donors are putting pressure and we're getting these pressure to support Israel. And who? I want to know which donor is saying that, which coalition is saying that, who is making these requests. When Megyn Kelly went and had Marjorie Taylor
Shillman,
right. No, but Bob Shillman said, I am giving you $2 million a year. I don't want any of that money to go toward Tucker Carlson. He earned that money. It's his right to say that. My question is, when she talks to Marjorie Taylor Greene and she says, everyone's trying to get me to go to Israel, who and why? And when you just say there's no pushback, it's just accepted, and she doesn't actually have a discussion. That's what bothers me most when you talk about fraudulent. She's not actually having discussions.
Well, she had a discussion with Ben Shapiro on stage, and she got a big surprise. So she did get her ass handed to her. So look, there's hard feelings. I'm going to play this clip. I hope it's the right clip. There's hard feelings between her and Bari Weiss. There's some jealousy, and I think it really comes out with this clip. I'm going to play it.
Do with it, but why did I have an obligation to stop Candace from asking those questions? I didn't, and I didn't call her out because I favored her asking them.
Okay, so there's the bitch there. Okay, now let's play this one.
Bari doesn't know anything about Erica. Bari Weiss has never been to a Turning Point event. Do you guys remember her here? Standing up for what we believe in when Charlie was alive? I don't remember her standing up for our principles. I don't remember her defending Charlie the many times he was called a racist or an anti-Semite. I really don't remember that at all.
See, she admits right there that defending your friends is important, right? So she's admitting it there.
I do remember is she had Erica Kerr come on one town hall in which Bari Weiss tried to play both super important VIP executive and super fabulous star anchor at her new network CBS. Pro tip, Bari, that's no way to win friends at your new organization, to try to steal all the hosting abilities of the on-air talent. So good.
Okay, I'm a woman. I can tell you that mockery comes from jealousy. And by the way, I'm not defending Bari Weiss, but she's not the type of person that would be haughty like that. That is Megyn mocking herself, actually.
100%. And I'll add here, what agree, disagree, Bari's politics, whatever, who cares? It's a very bizarre way to go about discussing the issue. She's not even talking about, like, she's just lobbing character attacks against Bari. And then what she does is she tries to play the same thing she did at NBC and Fox, which is say, I have insiders from inside and they're leaking to me. They're so angry. But you notice she's not actually talking about anyone specifically. She's just throwing it out there to throw crap at Bari. But what do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is, Megyn has the audience and the ability to have these discussions, but right now, she's only controlling the conversations that she's winning. So that's the Marjorie Taylor Greene example. Okay. She's instead of demanding specificity because she's not winning that one, she's letting these vague anti-Semitic tropes slide. So, the suburban moms that are with Ben on this, she's distancing herself from that. So, we're talking about the future. We're Western Alliance and the conservative movement. Yeah. Megyn is talking about who unfriended who. It's unserious. I mean, Bari Weiss, she built the Free Press because legacy media was lying. She's the editor-in-chief of CBS now because the American people distrust legacy media. She has done more for free speech in 3 years than Megyn has done in 20. So attacking the one person, who is a woman, by the way, actually building a new media ecosystem is exactly why
credibility.
They lose.
Well, you just said something. Because of the lack of trust in the traditional media. So the new media, we've which I consider myself a part of, we've got a chance to, build something. And trust is something that we shouldn't squander. And yet that's exactly what she is doing in the most bizarre way, whether it's, Daniel, to your point, not having actual substantive arguments or discussions, to outright lying and spreading conspiracy theories, or allow those ideas to ventilate in her presence without any corrective measures at all. So, Cam, I just wanted to pick up on this because you and I both are in politics. I'm a consultant. I help people win, whether it's a statewide, in state politics, usually you're on the federal level. But on the federal level, especially, you've got three really big buckets of donors for the GOP. Believe it or not, you've got about roughly a third that are Jewish. You got the other third, they're the evangelicals. And then the others that are business people. Now, we've seen a lot of tech people. So let's just add in, for the sake of argument, in our model, the business people are half tech people and half traditional business. Well, when you're running these things, and we'll convert over to JD Vance in a second, because these are the same ideas, right? Let's just say the idea of no gatekeeping. You've already lost. I can tell you, I mean, I hate to be like Megyn and say I have insiders. I can tell you I've been in meetings where I can't talk about who was there. The biggest donors in the evangelical world and the Jewish world are lockstep against JD Vance because of these things we're talking about tonight, right? So if you're alienating them, and I can tell you, when it comes to business donors, they don't want to have anything to do with anti-Semitism and anti-Indian hate, which we're veering into as well, especially in the tech sector. So we do look at these things. I mean, we look at donors because you cannot run a campaign out of a mud hut. You have to have capital to finance them. But when you look at voting blocks, it kind of breaks down the same way. In other words, you when you're targeting for donors and voting block, your message is the same. And so, I'm not going to be as hard on Megyn Kelly as I am on JD Vance, because we're the midterms. I mean, right, a year away, and 48 hours before he got up on stage and had the soundbite. Cam, you know as well as I do, you don't give people a soundbite. His soundbite was, you don't have to apologize for being white, right? I know it was in a bunch of other things that he was saying, but he's saying no gatekeeping, and he gave that soundbite when a poll just came out and showed that we're losing about 30% roughly of the Hispanic vote that we had.
Well, to be fair, Hispanics are white.
Okay, but fair, but they may not consider themselves that, right? Particularly if they have some heartburn about immigration for whatever reason, right? In other words, we want to be in our messaging very careful and not allow any, give any gifts to the left.
I think I hear what you're saying. And, it's that money talks, and that all it ever says is goodbye. And if the people cutting the checks are disillusioned or feel hopeless, then they're going to take their checkbook, close it, and say bye-bye. And the same can be said for the voters, right? If they feel like
I think
they are toast, that there's just no path to victory, they will say goodbye. That's why it is so important why we tackled the vote fraud, because if we don't tell the voters that their vote counts and will be counted according to law and will matter, they will just stay home because they will feel like their vote won't be counted, and therefore won't turn out and vote. So that's why it's important that Republicans message on election integrity too.
I don't think I heard any at the to your point. I don't think I heard that at TPUSA, and we were hearing petty attacks instead of substantive issues that we're actually doing well on.
Right. So I'm a Hill guy. I talk to voters. You know what they say? They say, why is the vice president hanging out with people who think, 9/11 was an inside job? It's not edgy. It's weird. And voters hate weird. We're handing the Democrats a sanity line that they don't deserve because we can't stop flirting with the fringe. There are talkers and then there are doers. Talkers like Tucker and Megyn, they make money off the outrage. Doers like Ben and my boss, Abe Hamadeh, like the people passing bills, they make progress.
Okay.
Outrage is a business model. Winning is a political model. It's a coalition building model. They
Right.
are not the same thing
That's right.
at all. Full stop. They are totally different sides of the football field, to use a Christmas football analogy. And right now, the business model is killing the political model.
And they shouldn't be at TPUSA because TPUSA brands itself as the winning vehicle for Republican victory. So what you just said argues against them being on that platform, being pushed, etc., in my opinion. Daniel, what do you think?
I think you guys are both correct there. I'll also just add that it's particularly troubling that they're flirting with these kinds of people and flirting with the Matt Gaetzes of the world. I mean, can we pause for a second when we talk about not giving people victory and opportunity? Matt Gaetz was actually up for Attorney General of the United States. Can we just, for a second, pause that actually happened? And then, in the midst of all this craziness in which Tucker has been promoting Sharia law and all the other stuff, who does he just put on as one of his guests? Or, of course, he's having a lovely conversation about all of the problems with Israel. In fact, Matt Gaetz blamed Israel. Well, I just gave away who was on his podcast, but Matt Gaetz was on his podcast. And he says that maybe he got brought into this whole underage women thing, or girl thing, because of Israel. So we talk about own goals. I can't think of anything more profound. It's very troubling. I don't really see a way out of it right now other than very, very tough losses, because I'm not sure that you talk about weird, but I don't see how good, decent, fair-minded people would want to associate with a movement that hosts and promotes the Matt Gaetzes of the world.
And won't
Well, it's not just about weird, Daniel. It's about the legislative reality. Like, I sit in on meetings where we try to pass bills to secure the border, where I'm, it's usually myself, somebody from Rules Committee, somebody from the Speaker's office, and somebody from the Parliamentarian's office. And, every time we're getting ready for when the Democrats, we go out there, we're ready, and they hold up some tweet from a Groyper or a clip from Tucker, and they say, "This is who you are." And we lose leverage. So the fringe isn't just annoying online. It's like actively preventing us from saving the country.
JD Vance said, "This is who we are." JD Vance said in that speech that Tucker Carlson is as much of a part of the conservative movement as anyone. It's not only random people that want to do guilt by association. JD Vance has said incorrectly, and I reject this full stop, that I don't have a list of people to gatekeep, and Tucker's a part of us. And that's bullshit. I'm sorry, but that does not work for me. And stop it all off. I guess the night, if that weren't enough, he sat down with a journalist from Unheard and unloaded on a lot of things. In fact, here's what he said. He said, people that are criticizing my wife can eat excrement, whether it's Jen Psaki or Nick Fuentes. So what he's doing is completely whitewashing anti-Indian hate. And by the way, the Indian community, though they do vote a majority Democrat, are furious. A lot of people are furious. So in other words, we've gone beyond, we can't distance ourselves from Tucker Carlson because the de facto next, GOP nominee won't do it and is holding on to him tightly.
I don't want to get in trouble here, but I will venture to say that one of the things that's particularly confusing for me is people tolerate and tolerated President Trump's vulgarity because that was part of his personality and he changed some of the norms. But I recall, certainly when I met Cam back in the college days, that it was an exception, not the norm. And it's very concerning for me that some of the more outlandish ways of talking have become normalized. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's
he's doing it on purpose.
Right. And I'm saying I think that's highly concerning. Yeah. I don't, in the same way that I don't want Heritage Foundation to or any other think tank to, I actually want them to do some more thinking and less tanking. And it's weird for me that all these people are speaking like Trump, and like you're not President Trump. That's a very unique person.
You can tell with JD Vance, it's not authentic. I mean, I lived in New York for several years, and I picked up a lot of cussing. So I can almost.
I know. I kind of just long for a time when politicians spoke a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, President Trump is a once in a generation political figure. I mean, he is the best president, probably, I mean, definitely since Lincoln, probably in the history of our country, definitely since Lincoln. And the best part about him is he has never held himself out to be some sort of role model. He's never preached himself out to be, somebody that should be looked up to, or, somebody that, that's some like Jeb Bartlett in the West Wing. That's all, high and mighty. Right.
Right.
But I mean, but I do see that when, to the heritage point, you just had 2 more board of trustees staff resign. You've had that brings it up to 3 boards of trustees. You've
3
had
out of 8.
It's a bit more than that, but
no, it's more than that. It's more than that.
Okay.
But you had an entire 2 entire departments resign. So you've had about 12 senior leaders resign. I have added up the names. You've had 18 to 20 named leaders leave Heritage, and only 12 of them have gone over to Pence's group, AAF. So this is not some sort of anti-Trump conservative establishment
No matter what they're
thing
telling,
that some are trying to make it. It is absolutely not that. And I can also say that many that have gone over to AAF are extremely supportive of many of the president's policies.
Absolutely.
And several of them are so supportive that they left Trump, that they left Heritage on principle, even without a job in hand, but so supportive of the president, so much so that they did not take a job at AAF, also out of principle, if that makes sense.
It does. So just for you guys maybe out of the loop, Mike Pence is persona non grata in a large swath of MAGA. And so what we're saying is, I think, I don't want to give a hard number, but around 3 people left Heritage this week as a part of a tranche of people that left on principle and said, look, we have a vote of no confidence. This is our vote of no confidence. We're leaving Heritage. We don't have any confidence in Kevin Roberts. And several didn't have jobs because they didn't want the bad juju that would come from Pence. Right. So they're going to roll the dice. But, again, and y'all can let me be the only one to pick on Vance here, and I'm totally cool with it. And I have
I have a lot of issues. I have a lot of issues with him.
Look, you're talking about, somebody who's uniquely has a reason to have an axe to grind, right? But that's the thing, Cam. Okay, so you had all this happen this week, the Heritage thing. So the I support Tucker Carlson model doesn't work for donors.
No, and I want to get back to that, but yeah.
Well, so, what I'm saying is you already have evidence of that. So you're going into this TPUSA thing, and Vance stood up and said, Tucker, he's my friend, he's my man, he's a part of this movement. In other words, there's dumpster fires everywhere from people who have done this, right? And there's ample evidence that every time that you wrap your arms around this guy, he does something completely crazy, almost as if to abuse you for supporting him, right? So I don't know. I don't know how sane this guy is, JD Vance. But
no, I mean, look, I sit in the approach meetings. I mean, I see the budget fights. When you alienate Jewish donors and evangelical, if not more so, evangelical coalitions, exactly, you don't just lose money, you lose institutional knowledge. These are people who know how to win school board races, how to fund turnout operations, GOTV, how to build long-term infrastructure. You can't replace that with Telegram groups and memes. As much, God love them, I do. And Daniel, I mean, just he just teed that up perfectly. Like, Gates blaming Israel for his underage girl scandal is just that's like peak own goal. Like, he's exhibit A of what happens when you tolerate the circus, because he was this close to being attorney general. Think about that. The guy who
It's
blamed
extremely
Israel.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he blamed Israel for his legal problems, and that was almost the top law enforcement officer in America. That's not edgy, okay? That's disqualifying. And the fact that
Not to mention the fact that his executive producer is also a vile anti-Semite, or
X.
the one who was fired. Yes.
right, from One American News, yeah, that was a insane saga there. I mean, and that the fact that Tucker platformed him and had him as the executive producer after all of that. I mean, and the fact that Gates had him, I mean, it proves that Gates, Tucker, they're not interested in winning. I mean, they're interested in ratings, right? But I mean, Charlie Kirk, contrast that with him, right? Charlie Kirk spent years building a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition, and I'm not saying this in like an identity politics way. I'm saying it as the opposite, as a colorblind way. You know, he he broadened a big tent conservative coalition. Then somebody gets on stage at AmFest and says, no need to apologize for being white the same week that we're losing 30% of the Hispanic vote. And that's not strategy, that's sabotage.
Mm.
And it's happening because the people, and I'm not saying this in any sort of moral judgment. I'm just saying this, just as a strategy, electoral strategy way. And I'm saying it as somebody who's looking at the midterms coming up and the suburban vote, which is going to be key. And it's happening because the people running these events and the people advising these politicians are more interested in Twitter applause, or I'm sorry, X applause, than, actual voter content.
Well, I will actually just jump in and say that I am having moral judgment. I think it's a very moral issue in the sense that if you're going to tolerate and promote and be friends with people that say, for example, the venomous coalition is coming after Tucker Carlson and people like that, there is a brain rot that has taken hold, and it's embarrassing for the conservative movement. And I don't think it's very conservative. The idea that you'd associate with such a person, which is actually, I'll just hone in on Kevin Roberts for a moment. The idea that you'd say, well, perhaps he won't be my professional friend, but he'll be my personal friend because I still want to hang out with him, even though I might disagree with some of his things professionally. Would someone say such a thing about David Duke? Right. So what are we talking about? I mean, I think the world has, the conservative movement, a portion of it has lost its mind. The tolerance for bigotry and for racial attacks and for completely bigoted conspiracy theories is not only disheartening, it's not electorally wise, and I'll add, deeply immoral.
Well, it is. And again, so one of the things that annoys me is anytime that someone says, oh, we believe in free speech. Oh, that's not free speech. Blah, blah, blah. Free speech is when you're either locked up for your speech. Okay, because that's free speech. If you're locked up by the government,
or Nick Fuentes style, right, where he was debanked.
Well, again, that's not government action. The arbiter of free speech in a legal argument is the government, right? Having been arrested for exercising my free speech, I'm telling you, I know what that is. Everything else is just curation. For instance, we were criticized roundly and repeatedly by the left for banning books. Remember that? We didn't want books about, I don't know, butt plugs and blowjobs and vibrators in the 3rd grade. We know that in a school library, you cannot fit every single book there's ever been made into the library. You do something called curating it, right? Let's take AmFest, for instance, or the Republican Party. When you want to put people who are prominent anti-Semites, not just, they don't like Jews or whatever, prominent, and want to take action against them and make money going after Jews and Black people and Indians, etc. When you want to have in your curation those kind of people, hell, we can find them anywhere. I can find an anti-Semite anywhere. I don't have to pay $1,000 to go somewhere for that, right? All it is curating, right? We like to curate a set of values. That's why we have a county GOP platform, a state GOP platform, right? And an RNC, a national platform. And in all those platforms, Cam, and you know this very well, we both do, support for Israel is in every damn one of them in the GOP from top to bottom. So if we're going to allow people that are trying to destroy that, right, and say they're a part of our movement, tell them to take their ass to the Democrat Party. That's, in my mind, a year ago when you asked me, the political home for anti-Semitism a year ago, I would proudly say was on the left. Take them and get their ass over there. So this whole thing, I mean, I see right through it as bullshit. And we have to make sure that more people, and I think people do kind of understand that, thanks in part to the help that Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson are giving us, to be fair, because they're becoming unhinged.
Yeah, I mean, Trump just, sorry, Daniel.
No, I was just going to say, you talk about speakers at AmFest. If either of you can explain how Jeffrey Epstein's buddy Steve Bannon was allowed on stage, I would love to get an answer.
Well, putting Steve Bannon aside for a second, because I mean, putting aside the fact that he actually used to speak at ZOA conferences up until a few years ago,
I was on the show a dozen times. Yeah.
And used to say that, Israel is our closest ally in the Middle East and perhaps the whole entire world. And then just seemed to flip for no apparent reason. And, he can really, fire up a room full of conservative young people that, make, crap wages on the Hill to, continue working for, to save our country. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, yes, he has disturbing Epstein ties, and but that's just.
Wait, can I push you on that though?
Sure. Yeah.
Here's my thing, and this comes down to just being focused on the absolute moral goodness of what the conservative movement should be. The argument, for example, that's made against the Clintons or Bill Clinton was some sort of deeply immoral behavior that he engaged in the White House, or that he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, or how many times was he on his plane, or how many times was he on his island.
Yeah.
How can the conservative movement make any of those arguments if you are, after you've already discovered that he was working as basically a PR hack for Jeffrey Epstein? How Steve Bannon was put on stage. That's not taking away anything that he might be good at or bad at, but it's actually just eviscerating any argument that a conservative could make about moral standard. Like if it is leaked that this guy is a political ally of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, then he should not be speaking at a conservative event. Period. End of story. I don't understand.
Russell Brand too. I mean, there are credible allegations and he's being charged. Yeah, I mean,
look, Steve Bannon, he helped build this coalition that won in 2016. Okay, I mean, there, no matter how flat you make a pancake, there's always two sides to it, and I'm not excusing that. But I mean, Trump won, and that's where we're at right now. So, I mean, like, I'm not going to rewrite history on that. But
no, it's not taking away from it.
Winning once doesn't give you a lifetime pass.
We're getting the political and the moral side to this, which is
I mean, look, like winning once doesn't give you a lifetime pass to take the coalition. If Steve flipped on Israel, and it seems like he has, then we need to ask why. What changed? Because it wasn't the facts. Israel is still our closest ally in the Middle East. The geopolitical reality didn't shift. So what did? And I think the answer is the audience, right? The fringe became profitable. the Groyper crowd became loud, and some people, whether it's Steve, Tucker, Megyn, made a business decision to chase that audience instead of defending the coalition, right? That's not principle, that's pandering. And I think the kicker to that is we don't owe loyalty to people who abandon the mission for profit. The mission is America first. That includes standing with our allies, securing our borders, and not platforming people who think the Holocaust was exaggerated, right? If Steve wants to rehab his reputation, great. But he doesn't get to do it by torching the Jewish donors and the evangelical voters who actually win elections. And you're absolutely right, Daniel. We spent years hammering Bill Clinton for his Epstein ties, and it just keeps getting worse and worse for Bill. I mean, that was not Hillary in the hot tub with Bill Clinton. For one thing, the water would have been a lot higher, and Bill would have looked a lot less happy. Okay, that was not Hillary Clinton in the hot tub with him. Okay, we said it was disqualifying. We said it showed moral rot, but now, Tucker is out here defending people with Epstein connections because they say edgy things about Israel. I mean, pick a standard, and you're picking one, and that's commendable. Either Epstein ties matter or they don't. You don't get to selectively apply morality based on whether somebody agrees with your current grift, and that's the hypocrisy if you do want to selectively do that, and the voters see through it. And Sloan, you're 100% right. The GOP platform, county, state, national, supports Israel. It's in the platform. Look at the TPUSA poll. I mean, I think it was 83%. It's in the party. If you don't like that, go to the Democrats. They'll take you. They love people who blame Jews for everything. They still do. But, don't sit here and pretend you're the real MAGA while you're actively undermining the platform that we all ran on. I mean, that the RNC ran on. That was 19 pages. That was a very, very slim platform that the RNC ran on in 2024, and Israel was in it, and it was unequivocal support for Israel, and that's not reforming the party. That's sabotaging it.
Right. It's trying to move the Overton. We get you're trying to move the Overton window. Right. And by the way, I think we would all agree. By the way, if you try to move the Overton window on Israel, and it is, in every level of the party, you're not looking at your donors. We all know where the donors are, and you need them. Right. You're not looking at any of this because part and parcel of not liking Jews is also not liking Hindus and Indians. That dog don't hunt when you're getting tech dollars, if that's indeed what we're going to rely on. And so what I'll say is this, is that I think we'll all agree we don't prefer that these, podcasters are going in a direction. Maybe they're paid. Maybe they're just going, to your point, Cam, that's a good point, where the audience is. They're able to do that. My objection, my hiccup is when you have the de facto next man up, the one heartbeat away from the president who is embracing this. And by the way, it's a material fact that he is. The TPUSA, he left no doubt, right? He left no doubt in that speech. That's the problem, because we didn't vote for that. So you want to talk about the one guy that is turned, that really screwed all of us, is the guy that we voted for, we campaigned for, we put him in the administration. We should have known. We should have known, because the only Republican that ever called Trump a Nazi or Hitler was J.D. Vance. He's the only one. So, and to your point, Daniel, the rhetoric is coarse, to say the least. The guy that was using this type of rhetoric against other Republicans, while you and me and everybody else was trying to get Trump elected and defend him, was J.D. Vance. So this isn't the first time that I personally have been at loggerheads with J.D. Vance. Thank you very much. I have defended our president from the hysterical commentary from J.D. Vance. And now he does a bait and switch and says, well, guess what? I'm with them. I'm not with MAGA, because but all of us have been saying, this is not in the platforms. This is not how you win elections. This is not who you vote for. So if we lose the midterms, and we're going to work very hard to make sure that that does not happen. But if we do, and if God forbid they want to impeach the president, and if he's removed in some way. Who does that benefit? Among everyone we've been talking about here, why it benefits JD Vance. And I can't help but to wonder now, after all of this, after we're seeing this, after we're seeing the TPUS thing, and we're seeing this, right? He unloads again and goes deeper into this and full stop says there is no anti-Semitism. And the only reason that's being put out there, the only reason why Jews are complaining is because this country is finally having a conversation about Israel. Nobody voted for that. No one voted for that. So that's where I'm verklempt about this, flummoxed, if you will.
I'll just add that it's hard for me to get behind a vice president who goes on X on a Sunday and calls a Jewish independent journalist a scumbag. It's very hard for me to reconcile that with being.
Man. Well,
all right. It's again, I'm just saying it, and it doesn't make me not conservative. I'm a little confused how that happens. And it demonstrates that there's a number of other issues at play that we ought to be concerned about. Yeah.
Well, for the record, he's attacked 3 conservative Jews. Me, David Roboy. He called him a horrible name. By the way, he's attacked 3 just conservatives out here. We've all been Jews. And 1 Canadian reporter from Rebel News. That's what I'll say. Now, I will also say that journalists work their entire lives, their entire career, 40 years, whatever, to be noticed by the president or the vice president of the United States. So I'm very honored to have raised a legitimate question, which, by the way,
he never answered.
That question needs to be answered like more than ever. The more that guy opens his mouth, the larger that question becomes. So I know that you guys, especially Cam, was one of my shoulders to cry on that day. That it was a rough, yeah. It's a rough.
I'll also just add that if I worked for someone who spoke in such a way and acted in such a way, I'm not sure I'd work for them. So when you asked a question about Tucker's kid, now I don't really want to go into Tucker's kid so much, but
well,
you are associating with people that act in such a way, and that's it's a problem. Meaning for me, it's I would not want to wake up in the morning and go to the office motivated to work with a vice president of the United States who goes on X and calls you a scumbag. It's a little bit weird, more than a little bit weird. And I think that's something that has to be considered. And I don't think that's where a conservative movement wants to go. And again, it's also interesting if you notice and kind of bring everything together, you notice who they're attacking. Heritage, Vance. I don't know if Vance specifically has, but I know that Tucker Carlson has. They're going after the likes of William F. Buckley. They're trying to really rip everything from the stem. And it's a big, big, big flashing red warning sign. And I'm not sure what's being done, but it's a big problem.
Look, I was there that day. Sloan, you called me. She was gutted. And frankly, she had every right to be. When a journalist asks a legitimate question about anti-Semitism and the vice president's response is, to call him a scumbag, that's not strength. That's thin skin. And we expect better. We should expect better. We expect leadership. So, here's where I stand on JD. The jury is still out. Okay. I voted for the ticket. I voted for Trump Vance. I want this administration to succeed, but success means leading the entire coalition. So that means not punching down at independent journalists who ask tough questions, and definitely not like flirting with a fringe that hates us and isn't going to vote for you anyways. So I think JD does have a choice to make. And I think this choice will have to be made, soon. if not yesterday. Um, you know, it needs to be made. It needs to be made.
Yeah.
He can be the leader who unites the populist right with the traditional conservative base, or he can, and I say that like he can be the vice president that was, that totally mopped the floor with Tim Walz at that debate, and frankly
It was friendly.
was
That's who I thought I
friendly
was voting for.
and broke the fourth wall and winked at us like he was like in the office or something. Like we all knew he was totally kicking his ass, but
But he was
and
a gentleman, and that's
right.
and it was such a good counterbalance
It was
to
so good. It was perfect. And
yeah.
it was a master class. And he can be that vice president who was really the only one in Congress to actually give a crap about that, train breakdown that,
Hmm.
spilled all those toxic chemicals into Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or he can be the guy who traded suburban stability for X applause. So right now, he's kind of hedging. And
Here's a good. I want you to try to take a shot at this. Is that Trump that JD Vance is making a political calculation and saying, well, small population, most Jews, they're Democrat anyway, and most Indians, right? And well, I think I've already pointed out, yes, but they give an outsized, like it or not. I mean, they give an outsized amount of donations. They like to donate to political endeavors. And then you've got evangelicals, which we're completely aligned with evangelicals on Israel. And that's a huge, very powerful voting and donation block. What do you guys think?
Well, my question when you say evangelical is evangelical Zionism, is Christian Zionism heresy? That's what Tucker Carlson said. I would like JD Vance to answer that. That's a basic question. I'd be very interested to see, considering that Tucker Carlson made JD Vance's career, essentially. I think that's a question. Now, obviously, to your point, of course, it's extremely important for Jews and Christians to stand together in support of Judeo-Christian values and in support of Israel being able to survive and America's interests being at the forefront across the world to the benefit of America. I think that Israel succeeding is for the benefit of America. When we're talking about America's interests being a top priority, that's what I want American government officials to be concerned of. And I think that that's what the evangelical community believes as well. So it's a natural alliance. And I'm actually curious what Vance would say about that.
well, I think JD is making a calculation, and after speaking with some of my evangelical friends and some of my friends that fall squarely in the Vance camp, I think he's looking at the raw voter file and saying, well, most Jews vote Democrat anyways. Most Indian Americans vote Democrat, so who cares? And I can write them off, at least right now. And I say that is lazy.
Don't punch us in the face, though. You don't have to talk about it. He didn't have to talk about us. You know what I mean? Like, I hear what you're saying. Not to interrupt, but I'd be fine if he didn't talk about us.
That's not his intention, though, Sloan. His intention isn't to punch people in the face. His intention, but I think what's happening, though, what it comes across as, or what it is just lazy. It's lazy, dangerous math. And here's why. Because the margins matter. If you're in a swing state like Pennsylvania or Arizona, you don't need most Jews, but you do need like 30%. If you insult the community and that drops to 15%, you lose the state. Okay? Like that's number one. Number two, the donor class. You cannot run a presidential campaign without money. And the Jewish community and the evangelical community are the financial backbone of the GOP. Full stop. And if you alienate them, the checkbook closes. And
Yeah.
They say bye-bye. And then number 3 is the evangelicals. And this is the part that JD misses. And maybe it's, because of his personal, convictions, which I respect and are commendable. But evangelicals are watching. They love Israel. Many of them have been to Israel more than me, and I've been to Israel more than a dozen times. I lived in Israel for a year, and many have been to Israel more than me. When they see the VP flirting with people who hate Israel, they don't just see bad politics like I'm talking to you about today. They see a total betrayal. Betrayal. And just bringing it back to Tucker for a second, Tucker is telling JD that this strategy works.
Yeah.
Tucker is whispering that you can replace these voters with dissatisfied young men online, the Groyper army. But here's the reality. And if I haven't been clear enough tonight, let me just say it very clear right now. These guys don't vote. Okay? JD is trading a reliable, high propensity coalition, which is Jews, evangelicals, suburbans, for a low propensity, high volatility fringe. And that's not 4D chess. There's no 4D chess there. That's malpractice. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll just add that I think it's a very bad idea, regardless of the calculation, if you're going to give JD Vance the extreme benefit of the doubt. It's not a good idea to let crackpot conspiracy theories gain ground, go left unchecked, and promoted in an ecosystem for weeks, months, or years at a time. So that's my objection to JD Vance's strategy, if that is indeed his strategy. I think it's a bad idea to allow your political allies to promote blood libels. And
It's your own wife too. It's
but I have that standard against everything. It's not just about Israel. Yeah. If you were to say that about, like, if we were having a conversation about black people, of course, everyone would be united in saying, do not let crackpot conspiracy theories go left unchecked. So I just don't, that's where I'm struggling to understand how people come to the conclusion that there is a kind of well thought out strategy. Because to me, it will eventually eat its own.
Well, I mean, this is a question. I wonder if there's an expectation. I mean, there's an expectation from who? One of the great things, and I have to say this, one of the great things that we've seen over the last 6 months is that Jews on the right aren't going to take this shit. I mean, at Heritage, I think the evangelical, because there was more evangelical people and leaders in that National Task Force Against Antisemitism, which I'm a part of. The Jews and the evangelicals, they packed up their stuff. They were gone in a week. Okay. I mean, we have been firing back stalwart against this. The left has that type of esprit de corps that, well, as long as they're on the left, we're not going to criticize them, and no matter what they say. Right. But, Tucker's given us ample evidence. He's on the left. So we've got left-wing people doing this. And again, I'm just beating a dead horse. The fact that they get, he gets a platform at the self-anointed, leader of who gets the nomination, which of course TPUSA mistakenly backed JD Vance already. I just think it's weird. We could stop talking about
they actually said that everything they do is around pushing for his nomination and for him becoming the president. They've said that.
The donations. Right. You just made yourself an enemy. I mean, in politics, you have. So I'm going to be very honest with you. The sympathy that Erica Kirk and others have had since they jumped in this political arena, I see it falling away. So they're going to be treated as the enemy by a lot of people that consider JD Vance the enemy. And I think that list is growing. Sadly.
Look, I don't like coronations. I didn't like it when
Correct.
the
Yeah.
establishment tried to crown Jeb.
Yep.
Jeb. And I don't like it now. You know, JD has the inside track for 2028, sure. But he has to earn it. And I want JD to earn it. And earning it doesn't just mean winning the primary base. It means proving you can lead the entire party and lead
And win in a
us
general.
to victory to the general. Exactly. And if you can't stand up to a podcaster spreading blood libels because you're afraid of losing a few thousand Twitter followers, how are you going to stand up to China?
Can't. You can't
How are
stand
you
up
gonna-
to your own wife. You can't stand up to, you can call me a scumbag, but you're not going to call the actual guy that is going after his children and his wife. And by the way, that's the real universal thing that everyone sees. The amount of support, I will say, the amount of support that I got after being attacked was amazing. I mean, it was like
It was pretty universal.
yeah. And I think what a lot of people settled on
And remember, I was like
was
saying, do not just turn your phone off, relax. And I was sending you screenshots of all the positive comments you were getting.
said,
And
if
you were like shocked. But I'm like, I have not seen any negative comments, Sloan. I was sending you all the positive comments.
yes, and I do appreciate that. I mean, when you're going through something like that, I mean, you wonder a lot of things like, does this mean the government's going to come after me? What does this mean? What does this mean when someone can pluck you out of obscurity and call you a scumbag and then subtweet and then actually question my Judeo-Christian values, which again, no comment. So what I'm saying is, yeah, if you can't stand up for your own wife, and I think a lot of people have said this, whether it's at the TPUSA speech that he did before this, where someone asked about her religion, etc. I think it rubs suburban women the wrong way. But, and then when people would say, well, Trump, if somebody could rub suburban women the wrong way, it would be Trump, blah, blah, blah. I think that Trump gets a lot of points because he's actually done something, right? Who is this guy?
Right, because he's not all talk, no action politician. He does action.
We don't know who he is. He talked shit about Trump the entire time. I mean, he was running. He barely won for the Senate. There's a lot of strings pulled. As soon as he did, he turned against his main financier. I think that was Mitch McConnell. And look, no shame, but he has touted his veteran experience in the war. I'm a journalist. He was a journalist in the war, and he worked a pen, a pad, and a camera during the war. He was not a combat vet. He tries to portray himself as that. I find that upsetting. Either he does or other people do. I mean, somebody has to sit there and write down what happened in war. That was his job, right? He has, big backers, Peter T. I mean, we don't know who he is. And therefore, everything he says is really important because it's a window into figuring this guy out.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you can't stand up to the podcaster spreading blood libels, I mean, how are you going to stand up to the deep state?
Maybe
we know. Maybe. Just asking questions. I mean, right? I mean, we know the deep state has been after Trump for 8 years, trying to prosecute him, trying to take him down. Leadership is about saying no to your friends when they're wrong. So no, I'm not crowning anybody. Okay. Yeah. And the jury is out. Seriously. And I want JD to earn my support for 2028. Sure. But I want him to earn it. And, right now, the evidence suggests that we have a discipline problem that needs to be fixed before 2028. This needs to be fixed.
I 100% agree with you. I think it has to be fixed. It has to be fixed quickly. I think that the opaque nature of how this is going to go about in the future is highly concerning, as we've discussed. And ultimately, I've harped on this entire discussion here. I'm just upset anytime I see there is a acceptance of bigotry. It just very much bothers me, regardless of the sides. Yeah. And I think that if conservatives want to have credibility in making that argument against intolerant leftists, we also should do that on the conservative side.
Yeah. And I think what we're saying is, you and I, Daniel, especially, I'm extremely uncomfortable with being a hypocrite. I work very hard in my own life not to be one. And if we're made to be one politically, excuse this and not that, for me, it's going to push me in a position where I just won't vote. I've not done that. Right. I mean, that, and I think a lot of people are saying that, and it's because of that hypocrisy. We have tried to eradicate race and take race off the table, period, and just say all Americans. But again, that's not what's happening. So I think this conversation was really important to have tonight. And I hope a lot of you have enjoyed it. A lot of my Christian friends have been messaging me that oh, wow, I've learned so much. Yeah, I mean, we're not asking for special treatment as Jews. We want to be left the hell alone.
And actually, I'll just add that I'm speaking up, and the reason I've started voicing my opinion on things like this is actually nothing to do with Israel particularly. It has to do with the soul of conservatism. I believe in a conservatism that does not tolerate bigotry and that actually is working in the interests of America and does not want to have total crackpots leading the party. I think that's what it's about. It has nothing to do with simply Christians or simply Muslims or simply Jews. It really has to do with conservative principles that should define America, that should push America in a better direction and take these core principles and feature them. And one of the bugs, not features, has to be bigotry, because bigotry exists, unfortunately, since the beginning of time. And what you have to do is you have to eliminate that. You have to work on who you're associating with. You have to work on how your party goes about things. Like when America was founded, there was not equal rights for everyone. Eventually, things change and you work in a better direction, right? You are getting better. You're trying to get in a better direction. And when you see parts of the conservative movement develop a very weird tolerance for ancient bigotries, it's pretty concerning. This should be pretty obvious for anyone who believes in basic conservative principles.
Daniel's right about the hypocrisy. I mean, we can't demand the left disavow the squad and then refuse to disavow our own fringe. It kills our credibility, right? We can't want border control and then refuse to do our own ideological border control in the conservative movement. The ideological founder of modern day conservatism, basically kicking out the John Birch Society and saying you are not part of the conservative movement in main part due to anti-Semitism, is a perfect example of that. But I mean, let's move beyond feelings. Let's talk about consequences. I've been posting about this for months, since that October 30th disaster video, really since the Virginia.
Kevin Roberts.
Yeah, really not right after that, but right since that November 4th election in New Jersey and Virginia that came just days after that, right? Look at the Heritage Foundation. I mean, Kevin Roberts thought that he could play footsie with this exact element. He thought he could, tolerate the bigotry to expand the tent. And what happened? It wasn't just hurt feelings. It was a staff revolt. It was tangible, like mopping the floor with conservatives in these deep blue states that actually had a chance at winning statewide election. Like at least Jason Mayoris had the chance for attorney general. That was easy. I mean, the Democrat literally said that he wanted to shoot children in text messages, and he still won.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was because of the Heritage Foundation.
Well, but you had JD Vance coming out, by the way, unprompted, who said, I don't give a damn about these text messages, these young Republicans, was in Politico. I don't care. They said about Hitler or calling black people, names, right? I don't care about any of that, guys. I care
Look.
about this guy. And I just say, why not just say, in other words, we need, if he's going to be the spokesperson to try to get us across the line in the midterms, either shut up or start singing on key. Do you know what I mean? Because that was a great opportunity for the leader of our party to come up and say, no, this is wrong. We're talking about violence, right?
Well, thank God the leader of our party in our country is Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, that's true.
And he is doing a fantastic job. And the MAGA coalition is solid and united around our president.
Yeah, that's right. But he's not on the ballot again. And all this jockeying for
But he is not on the ballot. And that is why we need to figure this out. If we want any chance of at least keeping the Senate, I would love to keep the majority in the House. We'll see what happens. But this is the ghost of Christmas future for JD Vance, right? I mean, if you think you can manage the fringe, look at Heritage. They tried. Kevin Roberts tried. And it gutted the most important, and it breaks my heart to say this. It's the most important conservative institution in Washington.
It was.
In less than 6 months.
Wow.
And, we're just asking for some institutional survival here. Because if the party goes the way of Heritage, we won't just lose Jewish donors or Jewish voters. We lose the ability to govern.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All this happened during the shutdown. I said from the beginning with this Heritage thing, at that point, they were just playing with house money because none of their experts had to go testify on the Hill. Because once you get someone to testify on the Hill, remember, they've got an all for one or a one for all policy where, if Kevin Roberts says something, that goes, right? And so you would get an expert theoretically who would go up on the Hill and testify about something like, I don't know, energy prices or whatever. And they will be, during a hearing, which will be widely televised, asked by the Democrats, and they will, if they support, and then read a sundry of things that Fuentes has said, whether it's about women, Black people, or whatever, right? And it's going to become a political circus, just like you said, that is actually a thing up there on Political Hill. So we lost what we had a year ago. People came to this party for sanity. And now they see a circus. And so, and we're asking ourselves why. We're asking ourselves, can't the vice president just stay out of it and distance himself so that it can look like it's just the podcasting class and we can deal with that? We don't want it drug into the actual party, because we lose the leg to stand on. And Daniel, it is all about morals and values because an overwhelming amount of people come to this party because of that.
100%. You actually gained a lot of people because they are tired of people, of teachers instructing their third graders that if they're a boy, they could be a girl, and having trans ideology inserted into all sorts of weird places. You actually gained a good portion of voters because the conservative movement was a movement of sanity. And now, for whatever reason, you are tolerating some of the most asinine ideas. So, I mean, this should be pretty evident. And I'm not really even sure why it's been so difficult. That's another question that I ask myself every day. Like, right, you're saying things that are pretty straightforward. Why is this so challenging?
Yeah, this is the stuff that the left does. Actually, to correct that, the left doesn't push back against it in their own party, but we are. And it's just something that we have to do. And so, yeah, it's making people like Cam and I, very nervous about the electoral implications of all this. But again, we're not going to solve it by staying quiet. Talking about it and showing the public that, no, we don't all stand for this is the important thing to do. So I want to thank everybody for coming. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you as well. It's been a great discussion. I'm glad that you can all join during Christmas.
It is. And if I could just close with one thought on that, Sloan.
Please, yeah.
People came to this party for sanity, just like you said. They saw the left going crazy. They saw the gender ideology, the open borders, the woke mandates, and they looked for us, for the adults in the room, the alternative, right? But now, just to kind of recap what you said, they look at us and they see the circus. I mean, They see, you know, a VP fighting with journalists. They see influencers praising Hitler. They see the Heritage Foundation imploding, and they ask, the voters ask, is this the party that can run the country? My job is to pass bills. My job is to get wins for the American people. And I can tell you right now, you cannot govern a superpower like a circus. Okay? We lost the narrative right now. And I'm not saying we can't fix it. We can. But we lost the narrative we had a year ago because we took our eye off the ball. And the fix is very simple. Okay? And I'm speaking just purely from my own personal opinion, from a view from Congress, from a congressional staffer. Stop flirting with the crowns. Stop being afraid of the fringe. Get back to the mission, which is safe borders, strong families, American prosperity. If we do that, we win for a generation. If we keep playing these games, we're just handing the keys back to the Democrats. And it's time to get serious, guys. So Merry Christmas to everybody.
I agree. Daniel, anything else? Any closing words?
I just appreciate the chance to come on, and I appreciate both of you. And I think that these are important questions that should continue to be asked. I think that it's not too late. It's not necessarily an easy process to go through these things. I'm quite confident that Ben Shapiro does not want to be forced to give speeches like he did at AmFest. But I think it's very important to continue to speak about the issues and to actually continue to build coalitions in spite of some of the insanity. And let's pray, hope and pray that there is some clear guidelines that are established in terms of what is a rational thought and what is an irrational thought, and some semblance. I'm not saying that you can't hear or listen to other things, but you can, just like if I were to listen or watch Al Jazeera, I'm not going to absorb everything as this is absolutely true and correct, right? We can have you can understand something, understand what they're trying to tell you, and then say, that's crazy. So it's just saying that we should call out the bad stuff. And if we want to engage in a discussion honestly, okay, but let's not elevate some of these absolutely atrocious ideas under false pretenses. And I think we can do that. It's just a matter of speaking up very loudly.
Well, the conversation we're having tonight, and the more we're going to have going forward, that is establishing the boundaries. So we are the party, we are the voice, we are establishing the boundaries, and we're using facts to do that, and we're using logic to do that, and we'll continue to do that. And we expect that everybody listening tonight, or you're sharing this video with people, sharing the video, people that will see that will also pick up the mantle, because it's not just going to be the three of us. Obviously, it's going to be everyone drawing a line and saying the why they're doing it, and be able to clearly articulate that really matters. So thank you again for everything. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody. And we will, on our regular podcast, we have one every Tuesday and Thursday night about North Carolina politics. We'll see you on Tuesday night, so don't miss it, 8 o'clock. All right. Bye, guys.
Well, Daniel, thank you for having me tonight.
Bye.